Nigeria is blessed with large amounts of renewable natural resources, which when fully developed and utilized will lead to poverty reduction and sustainable development. It is on that note I welcome you to this edition of Business Matters, where businesses truly matters. I'm Stephen Ipalibo Lawson. Thanks for staying tuned. Renewable energy resources and technologies are keys to economic growth and development of any business. Let's take our business update segment.
On our business update this week, strategic leadership practice today. Leadership, an ability to control, guide, persuade and influence the decision of others to achieve organizational goals and objectives. It is against this background that an induction workshop with the theme Strategic Leadership Practice Today was recently organized in Lagos. According to the organizers of the event, strategic leadership styles and good management practices will reduce unemployment rate, corruption, terrorism and kidnapping in our country.
We want to have a situation where we are forward thinking. We look at things the way they should be in future and see how to go about it in our country. And we cannot also run the country in isolation, because you could see what is happening all over the world with the current wind of globalization, digitalization and all of those. Those are all signs of strategy. They are all strategic moves and trends. And for this country to effectively implement change, bring up leaders, bring people who will run things the way we want, I think it's important that they take things the way we have brought them from this organization.
Keynote speakers at the workshop spoke on the critical components of strategic leadership and strategic techniques in achieving leadership excellence.
You need the knowledge of strategy to understand how the terrain is, to understand what globalization and what globalization is providing, to understand other people's innovation, to understand how the complex world will affect management. You need strategy to understand how uncertainty can be managed. You need strategy to define direction. A nation without a direction is in a mess. Agenda is not direction.
Unless we lace whatever competencies we have, whatever educational capabilities we think we have, unless they are laced with capable, good, and enduring character, we cannot achieve excellence.
High point of the workshop was the induction of new strategists into the institute. Participants at the workshop bared their minds.
It's going to really help my job in the sense that it's no longer enough to be a manager, but in being a manager, you have to be strategic. In leading people, you have to lead them strategically. Even your decisions are not just going to be sufficient if they are not strategically planned. So that is why I think this is very beneficial to me and to my organization.
Today I've learned that it's not just being a manager, but you have to be a manager with a strategy. You have to know how to actually use the best resources you have and be able to connect the different areas of management together in producing not just effectiveness and efficiency, but also speed and accuracy as you work.
Strategic leadership practice will enhance economic growth and development. Up next, closing figures from the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange.
The need for sustainable development experts is rapidly increasing as they provide an alternative source of energy in driving the economy. Welcome to our professional segment. This is the professional segment of Business Matters, the premium platform for everything business. Today, joining me in the studio is an expert to discuss the topic, renewable energy option for sustainable development. And that is no other person than Mr. Femi Oye, the Managing Director, CEO of Green Energy and Biofuels. You're welcome, Femi.
Thank you.
So our viewers are going to be excited today because they know that you're going to give us so much that we can take away with. But first, let's start up with this. Give us a general overview of energy management, especially as we have it right now in Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you. When we talk about energy, sometimes we make it so general. And in the space of the new green economy and looking at the new circular economy that we're building today. So we have to be more specific. So for there to be sustainability, that means that probably we have some things that have not been sustainable. So before now we talk about development, but we've added the new sustainable development. Likewise, in the space of energy creation, energy generation, energy distribution, management, and also utilization. So we now found out that for the future that we want to get into, so there is going to be a huge increase, larger demand, and then we're having new devices, mobile phone, an average African Nigerian go on now with 2-3 mobile phones. That means if you needed 100 watt of power lasts 2 years, so just 24 months after, so your energy demand have literally increased to about 120, the 20 being that there is development, and as development is going up, we are also having a new demand on the uses of energy. So that's why we need to begin to engage and begin to look out for new ways by which we can solve the new problem, the new challenges in our environment. And that brings us to the need for green and clean energy.
It's amazing because, I mean, a lot of these words, a lot of people imagine are just buzzwords. And people wonder what exactly can be the contributing percentage of renewable energy within the energy mix. But you and I know that there are a lot of opportunities out there, whether they're emerging, whether they have been able to go through a period of time through inventions or through innovations or through technological advancement. So at this point in time, as regards to renewable energy, are there opportunities that you think our viewers should actually be aware of, as the case might be?
No, definitely. We have huge spectrum, huge dashboard now for emerging, evolving opportunities for renewable energy, and we also need to talk about its application, its adaptation, and its also convention. So that is why in every space talk about nanotechnology, biotechnology, biomedicine, in our educational institutions, in our companies, running business, in agriculture, every space, in the tech space. If you want to talk about security, so there is a new emergence for new kind of energy. So we are developing a project with Sokoto State Government and NSP GIZ in Sokoto, for instance. That's a massive, large community, but they don't have to be connected to the grid anymore. So we call that one mini grid. So with this emergence comes with new opportunities, new growth, new potential. So it's going to create jobs, it's going to open up these communities to other economic opportunities. Of course, internet is going to come into these communities, and with the emergence of internet into such opportunity, then they can begin to talk about what are farmers doing in those kind of rural communities. We don't have to travel down there. So with electricity come massive opportunity for local communities to also participate in global trade or global opportunities that is evolving, because any buyer can understand that, okay, there is fish farming going on, there's agriculture going on, there are some trade or skill, they have new kind of craft that they are producing, they even have music that they are producing that is so unique in those communities. So you can see what energy, what renewable energy can actually do. So if we are waiting for government or to begin to develop massive infrastructure into super high grid, it might never come. Apart from that, it won't come. It's so expensive to even achieve that in today's world.
People will always say that sustainable development is important because you want to be able to use the present-day resources in a way that is not going to harm, you know, the access of that same resources by future generations. But there are challenges to renewable energy adaptation. There are challenges that a lot of people themselves may feel that, are you sure we can surmount all of this? What is your take on that?
Yes, I absolutely agree. I believe strongly that we cannot get into the future by actually thinking about yesterday. We cannot make much progress if we locked up ourselves into the fear, into the pain, and into the negatives that surrounds our current reality. So we have to look into the future with optimism. We have to look into the future with confidence. And we have to have that share of grit and faith that is definitely going to work. All we just have to look at is what is going on around us, outside there. So we have some economies today now. They're already achieving 50, going to 60% sustainable, renewable, energy-powered kind of lifestyle, economy, and productivity. So many people believe that because a 1 kilowatt solar system with the solar panel, the battery bank to store it up for you to use at night, and inverter and everything that you need to make that box could cost you like ₦1 million to 1.5 million naira. That same 1 kVA kind of system for a better pass my neighbor generator costs less than 50,000 naira. So we'll say it's expensive. However, when you look at the running cost, and when you have to change that a better pass generator in a couple of months, you're still using your renewable energy source, that is solar. So over time, the cost is actually spread. So that's why I said it's actually the context that you are looking at it. So the third thing that we now have to do is the consumer kind of interest. So we consumers as well, we must be able to come up to appreciate the need for
all of this.
These things.
I don't want to let you go without asking 1 or 2 more questions. And the next question I'm going to ask, in terms of the fact you've raised it up, government's roles. What are strategies on ground? What are policies on ground? What's the role of the government in all of this to make not just this affordable, but of course adopt this within its own developmental agenda for a sustainable future?
Now, to be frank about that, this government, I won't make case for the government. However, this is one of the government that we've had in many years in Nigeria that seems to be getting it right in the aspect of renewable energy or powering, because they came in, they needed to deny it, but the fact is the fact. So you might deny it, but you can't run away from it. However, I'm in this sector, and I've seen a lot of program, a lot of support that the current government is already doing, and I think that is the direction. And I think our president also made a very strong commitment to signing the Paris Agreement.
Absolutely.
And when you look at the NDA, the NDC rather, for Nigeria,
the National Determined Contribution
for Nigeria, that is what actually talks about how are you going to grow your economy, how do you want to grow your development as a nation. So Nigeria's own have about 7 things listed there. I think about 4 of that has to do with clean, renewable, and sustainable kind of living that also say that this government want to do. That is the first thing they will. However, our policies, our laws, they are still conflicting. They don't look like what has been, just like what we have seen is only the body language. But we now need to begin to make that those deliberate steps an action. So let's make laws to actually say that, okay, if you need to go renewable, you can actually have access to credit. So that's why government must put aside some funds to fund specifically the sector. You must come with boldness. It's going to pay back, because at the end of the day, if we can successfully take about 1 million households, we have over 30 million households in Nigeria, 1 million households that is off the grid, the national grid, means that there will be some megawatts up to maybe 1 or 10 or 20 megawatts that we can release to actually go to industrial zones for production. And this 1 million households, what would they be using? They'll be using renewables. How much do they really need? How many energy do they an household need? Maybe 3 or 5 kilowatts every day. And that one individual can create those kind of energy and, of course, allow the excess to go to development, to go to power industry.
I know one of the things that we've been exposed to is the fact that with the president signing, ratifying and ratifying, as the case might be, to the Paris Agreement and the commitment from the different conferences of the party, the COP, which obviously one is holding in Germany sometime next month. We looked at the aspect of the climate green funds, where you have at least available up to the tune of 100 billion, so to speak, and how developing countries, especially Nigeria, that should be in the forefront, should take advantage of. You think if those kinds of funds are accessed, a lot of this sustainable development agenda can be better, sped up?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Why are we not assessing that?
That is the direction. Yeah. The problem sometimes is not the problem. The problem is what you think the problem is.
You're going philosophical.
That is the case where we have a situation where the UNFCCC that talks about the Kyoto Protocol methodology of CDM has now become China development, you see? So Chinese and China, India and Indians, they are so smart at assessing this. For that 100 billion or estimate that you've said that is available under the Green Fund, more than 70% of this fund is going only to 2 countries, not 2 continents, 1 continent, 2 countries, China and India. And why would they assess it? Because Mama Nkechi refused to open her shop does not mean that Mama Angela will not open her own to attend to customer, because Nigeria refused to assess or to pursue those instruments, those methodology, fulfill the requirement for these funds, does not mean that other countries will not assess them. That's exactly what happens when we are not having enough education, enough information, enough knowledge about funding development and growth. I think the purpose of this fund is to be able to develop our roads, our hospitals,
Absolutely.
to be able to create opportunity for young people, to be able to give women equal opportunity, to be able to fund our health system. But unfortunately, we are grappling with loan, we are grappling with just tax within. We forget about billions of dollars that Nigeria already have. We've signed the Paris Agreement, for instance. So we are an active member of the party, so why can't we assess it? So our government, we are still taking the back seat, whereas other countries are taking advantage of this opportunity. However, the cake is there, is for whoever that will stand up to assess it. So we've got everything that is required because the funds is for development. And Nigeria is a developing country. So we have equal opportunity, equal access to access those funds. So we need to continue to challenge our ministries, our government, to ask them, what are you doing about this fund for our development? Just a fraction of this fund can be set aside or can be merged or can be matched to actually create a new fund for accelerating deployment of renewable energy in rural communities. But then we are not looking at that. And yet in Nigeria, there is no credit system that can actually fund the poor to create their own energy.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing that a lot of these things, when being discussed, and like you rightly said, that is part of the essence and the fulcrum of programs of this nature, is for us to be able to create widespread platforms that can bring about a lot of this awareness right to the public. So we know that these huge opportunities are there, and I'm very sure that the government and functionaries themselves are listening in. I mean, they watch the program, and hopefully we're going to be seeing something that is going to be much more active rather than passive. But as a way of wrapping up, do you think renewable energy is truly the future for this country?
I'm not going to think twice. It's the future. To deny that is actually to be moving backward like 20, 40 years. And it's amazing the kind of opportunity and the kind of time, because I'm bubbling every day with excitement into the future, because it holds more opportunity to people in my generation. Whereas we have its own contending challenges and troubles left, right, and center. But when we look at what clean energy, what artificial intelligence, what mobile technology, what internet can actually do, this actually what the XDG has been built on, giving equal opportunity, equal access, breaking barriers, bringing people more well connected. These are opportunities. They are not threats. However, they will be threats to some economy. They will be threat to some company. That's why we have to phase out everything that is unsustainable. For instance, our company just started deploying solar-powered electric vehicles in Nigeria, for instance. This is the future of transportation, of mobility. So if anyone is still trying to invest in locomotive or petrol engine car in the world, it's a bad investment, because very soon in Sweden, in Germany, they're already shipping all their petrol-powered cars into the developing countries, because there is not going to be any need for that anymore. So if you want to be prepared and participate in the future, I think we need to be well informed. We need to understand what holds in the future. We don't need to just be dogmatic and thinking that all we need is to satisfy today. The future, younger generation coming up, they are going to place demand on us. And that is why we all have to stand up and begin to accelerate that vehicle into the future.
All right, thank you so very much. I've been talking to Femi Oye, the Managing Director of Green Energy and Biofuels, and we've been discussing the topic, renewable energy and sustainable development. And this has been amazing. I want to say a big thank you for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right. So viewers, this is what we have, so much more on the professional segment. Please stay with us, and Business Matters continues.
Finally is our business success tips.
That's much we can bring to you on this edition of Business Matters. But before we draw the curtains, let me leave you with this quote. Quote, "The use of solar energy has not been opened up because the oil industry does not own the sun." End of quote, by Ralph Nader. Till we come your way next week, keep doing business. I'm Stephen Ipalabo Lawson. Thanks for watching.